But if they're going to do any better in the second half, that Oklahoma defense better start tackling.
Patrick O'Hare is going to have to tee it up again. He'll be kicking off with that wind that is still howling. Sustained winds up around 30 miles an hour now. On an otherwise warm and pleasant day with the temperature near 70 degrees. And the second half is underway. Middle of the end zone with the wind, and Tyler Lockett decided to take a knee. Let's look at today's game track, brought to you by Bud Light. 290 yards in the half and a couple of touchdowns for Landry Jones, but he did throw 2 picks. Ryan Broyles already 10 catches. His single game career best is 15. And Colin Klein at 104 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, giving him 16 rushing touchdowns in 8 games this year. It's his 4th 100-yard rushing game of the season. So the Wildcats have it first. Heading into the wind here in the third quarter. Here's Lockett. Out of bounds at the 27-yard line. Gain of 7. Here's Heather Cox.
Sean, after containing Kansas State in the first quarter, Oklahoma allowed nearly 200 yards rushing in the second quarter. So I asked Bob Stoops what changed. He said it was 2 things. One thing, we lost assignments on some of those big runs in the second quarter that we didn't lose in the first quarter. And then, Matt, like you said, tackling a huge issue. He said for some reason, fundamentally, we tackled well in the first quarter. We lost those fundamentals in the second quarter. Certainly something addressed at halftime, guys.
Klein decided to keep it that time and got tackled by Ronell Lewis. No gain on the play. It'll be 3rd down and 3.
You know, this offense is based on gaining an extra man, Sean. And the way you achieve that offensively is by letting a defender free and making him have to account for the quarterback. And that's how you gain your extra man in numbers in the run game. And when you're Ronell Lewis and they're working off you, you've got to make a play. And that last play he did.
Flag thrown out near the 40-yard line by an official in front of the Oklahoma sideline.
Substitution infraction, defense, 5-yard penalty, 1st down.
Wow. Costly mistake. Both Venables and Bob Stoops, former Bill Snyder assistants at K-State, agitated that happened to give the Wildcats the 1st down.
Well, it goes back to the old rule. Don't beat yourself.
Of course, these coaches very familiar with Bill Snyder and his approach. It hasn't changed much over the years. Brent Venables said it's going to be about numbers on offense. They're going to get up there and count and decide based on the way the defense is lined up which direction they're going to run it, or so they should run or throw. John Hubert, a 1-yard gain, tackled by Ronell Lewis.
Yeah, second time that Ronell Lewis has played it right. You know, again, he's the free guy. He plays it perfectly, feathers it out with Colin Klein, and then turn and get down the line of scrimmage and makes the tackle. That's well played by Ronell Lewis.
Braden Wilson, the fullback, went in motion. Klein throwing into the wind as his receiver. Chris Harper short of the 1st down. Out at the 38-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 4 for Kansas State.
This is a tough offense for Kansas State because they don't really push the ball down the field. Outside of Lockett, they don't really have a speed guy. And so their whole thing is predicated off the run game and then play action off that and a lot of intermediate throws.
3 wide receivers come out to the right here. They're a good 3rd down team, and they're right on their percentage for the year with the 3 out of 6 today. Sooners show blitz and bring it. And Klein is taken down behind the line of scrimmage by Frank Alexander. Crowd thought there was a little extra polish after the play, and Klein is still getting up.
Well, they did bring a blitz from the offensive right side. Alexander took a hard inside move.
And they did step on Klein. They just saw the same replay we saw on the screen here. Alexander gesturing as soon as he did it that it was unintentional, and apparently the officials agreed. So Ryan Dorr on a punt into this wind, and the wind just bats it down. Fair catch made by Ryan Broyles. Crowd still doesn't like it. And we're still looking at Klein. Do you think that should have been flagged?
No, I don't think that was intentional whatsoever. I think he made the play, got up, and it happened. But Klein looks like he's in a little more than just a regular wear and tear there.
After the 29-yard punt into the wind, here's Landry Jones handing it off to Roy Finch. In trouble and dropped for a loss. Ray Kibble leading the defensive front. There's a look at the tackle. You wonder if he was injured before he got stepped on. You know, I understand what you're saying. It wasn't intentional, but you're still responsible for what you do. I mean, you can't step on a guy's chest and take a step.
Well,
using his
he
chest
pulled
as a
off it
launching
pretty.
point.
He pulled off it pretty quick. I don't think there's much to that.
I think again we're not surprised, being a great defensive player as you were. Jones on 2nd and 11 into K-State territory to Kenny Stills for a first down at the 48-yard line. Well, again, Landry Jones over 300 yards for the 20th time in his career, adding to his own Oklahoma record. On the design roll, throws it up for grabs. Broken up by Ty Zimmerman, the sophomore from Junction City, Kansas, right up the street. Intended for Broyles.
Waited a little too long on that, Landry Jones, because that allowed Zimmerman to be able to get over there. He's open now. Because he took just a few more steps before he made that throw, Zimmerman was able to make a play on it. Could have been picked.
Zimmerman was a freshman All-American safety last season. 3 receivers to the right of Landry Jones. Inside handoff to Finch. Inside the 35, and finally banged down by Arthur Brown with help from Nigel Malone. Terrific run by Finch. They're going to mark him down at the 29-yard line. 19 yards and a first down for Oklahoma.
Now, I mentioned little Joe Washington, who was just a terrific player at OU and an All-American, and then in the National Football League for a long time. But these guys have the same kind of build, but in space. That's where they were really special, and Finch has the same thing.
They fake it to Finch. Broyles is wide open inside the 15, still in bounds. Touchdown. Well, some of that poor tackling from Oklahoma might have infected the Kansas State defense on these last couple of plays. That's a whiff.
That's nice tight walking down that sideline by Broyles. But I'm with you on the whiff. You got to get him out of bounds.
First touchdown of the day for Broyles. 45th of his career receiving. 29-yard touchdown. Honeycutt's extra point good. He had one blocked in the first half. They led by 14 early. Then K-State rallied. Now it's a 13-point lead again for Landry Jones and the Sooners. Just a minute and 16 seconds for Landry Jones to take the Sooners 63 yards in 5 plays. Jones is up to 335 yards passing. It could be a career day before it's said and done. His all-time best was 468 against Oklahoma State last year.
You know, Sean, they're playing basically zone the whole time against him, and if you're playing zones, you got to have a rush. They've not had pressure on him all day.
Patrick O'Hara kicks off with the win. This one's returnable for Tyler Lockett, about a yard deep in the end zone. And he stopped shy of the 15-yard line. And again, the crowd doesn't like what happens after the play. And there's a Wildcat down on the field. Dowling is the injured player. Backup defensive lineman Leighton Dowling.
Dowling right there, and he gets leg whipped on the backside.
Ronald Lewis made the tackle. It's Kellen Jones. I didn't see much there. Did you?
Much, no.
Meanwhile, Dowling's been helped up, walking off with some help. I think the fans had a reasonable gripe in the last offensive series when Alexander stepped on the chest of Klein. Whether he meant to do it or not, it injured Klein. He was receiving medical attention the entire time the defense was on the field. We'll get more on that from Heather in a moment. 1st and 10, K-State. Down by 13. They trailed 14-0. Rallied to take a 17-14 lead in the first half. Another poor tackle by David King, allowing Hubert to get out near the 20. Here's Heather.
Sean, as you mentioned, Colin Klein spent that entire series with the medical team. A trainer actually ran to the locker room to get a special medicine. It was like a numbing balm that they actually rubbed on the chest area under his pads where he was stepped on in that last series. Now, guys, remember, this is a quarterback that's known and respected for his toughness. In fact, his teammates started calling him our version of the honey badger because he's always bleeding and cut up. So never takes a play off, and back out on the field right now.
Everybody has a honey badger now, it seems. 2nd and 4. Klein kept the ball, surveyed the D. Runs well for a guy with a sore chest. Out to the 29. That was particularly true down in Miami. That great game that really started this run of success. The end of that game, playing on that hard field, the baseball stadium north of Miami, he was covered in dirt and blood, and Klein admits that pretty much every week now by the end of the game he's bleeding, sometimes profusely. There's those bandages on each elbow, trying to tie his shoe. 1st and 10. Play 5 seconds. Sooners showing blitz. They bring it. Klein's in trouble and sacked. Corey Nelson, and the blitzing Sam Proctor was enough of a factor from the start of that play to contribute to the sack back at the 21-yard line.
You're going to see Nelson coming on one side and then Proctor on the outside. But because of the coverage down the field, and they're able to go man-to-man and run with these receivers, Klein has nowhere to go, has to pull it down, and sets up this 2nd down and long.
Klein has completed 5 passes. He's 5 for 8. Landry Jones has completed 25 passes. Now to 36. 2nd and 17. Klein took off running, got a couple, pulled down from behind again by Corey Nelson. Casey Walker in on the play for the Sooners. It'll be 3rd down and long, and K-State isn't built for that. Few teams are.
Yeah, you know, Sean, actually I'm a little surprised that Oklahoma has not played blitzed a little bit more and put more pressure on them, get more people at the line of scrimmage, because they have the advantage in coverage versus these receivers. Aren't going to run away from them at all, except for Lockett's the one guy who could do it.
Nearly midway through the 3rd quarter now. 3rd and 15. Seen very few pass attempts down the field from K-State. Design roll to his left. And now they're mad again. Nelson was actually trying to hold him around the waist. There is a flag on the play. I mean, if anything, Nelson was trying to prevent Klein from crashing into the bench. There is a flag now. Greg Burks is the referee.
There is no foul on the play.
You watch Klein as he goes out of bounds.
Well, again, the contact doesn't start till he's a yard or two across. I mean, he did try to prevent him from falling, but he, based on where Klein is there, you shouldn't be initiating contact when he's almost all the way across that white part. I know what you're going to say. He's a defensive player. He can knock him into the front row if he wants. I mean, he did try to prevent him from falling down, but the contact began awfully late. Here's another punt into the wind. Pretty good one given the stiff breeze. And a fair catch made by Ryan Broyles. They're going to mark it at the 32-yard line. 42-yard punt into that strong wind. I guess it's Halloween in Kansas. The Wizard of Oz costumes are almost mandatory. We've seen a bunch of those today. It was fun yesterday. The homecoming parade through downtown Manhattan. There were also a lot of the young kids out in their Halloween outfits. Jones throws, caught. Lawan Miller trying to gain ground after the catch, and he's tackled by Ty Zimmerman at the 40-yard line. 8 yards on first down for Oklahoma, trying to build on a 13-point lead more than midway through the third quarter. 3 catches for Miller, who missed a lot of last year with a knee injury. Landry Jones might be on his way to his school record 8th game of 400 yards or more. Brennan Clay is committed running back. Short pass, first down to the 49-yard line of K-State. Goes Ryan Broyles. Meshach Williams made the tackle. An 11-yard run. Joined us late. Dominique Whaley injured on the first play of the game. Has a cast on his lower left leg. Our Heather Cox reports all indications are he's lost for the year. Oklahoma's leading rusher. And they've run the ball very little without him today. They've only attempted 11 runs. Here's the 12th from Brennan Clay. Gain of 3 to the 46-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 7. Clay's a sophomore from San Diego.
Sean, we've had an opportunity to watch some of the most prolific passing offenses in the NCAA, and certainly right here with Landry Jones, when they're on, they are really, really good. We watched Brandon Whedon at Oklahoma State. Same thing with them. That game at the end of the season is going to be a humdinger with the ball in the air.
Which passing attack impresses you more?
I think we've had an opportunity to watch them all. I think
shovel pass to Finch, chased out of bounds by Trey Walker. I mean, it's hard to pick. They both have one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and they both have one of the best receivers, Blackman and Finch. Blackman and Broyles, rather.
And they also do a great job with pace. So you have to defend pace whenever you're playing those offenses.
And you're not going to pick one.
No,
I'm
not. I'm going to be Sweden right now.
That's right. We may see these two teams again down the road. I believe it's Switzerland.
Switzerland, Sweden, same thing.
3rd down and 4. 4-man rush. Jones has his man, first down. James Hanna, the tight end, still running. Down to the 6-yard line. 37 yards on the completion of the senior tight end.
And it looks like he just did have man coverage there that time against Trey Walker, and he beat him. Middle of the field was wide open, and man, big first down.
Poised to take their biggest lead of the game. And Jones throws, touchdown. One-handed catch by Jazz Reynolds.
That's the second impressive catch of the day for Reynolds. One on the sideline earlier, and then this one, it's just like it's his job. He just pulls it out of the air like it's no big deal. Watch him to the inside. I mean, it's impressive.
It was as if he never even thought about using the left hand, even to help secure it. Second touchdown catch of the day for Jazz Reynolds. And Oklahoma has silenced the sellout crowd in Manhattan, Kansas. Michael Honeycutt for the extra point. And the lead is 20, the largest of the day. Jazz Reynolds sophomore from Houston. Came in at about 165 pounds. He's up to 198 and has always had the great hands. Dwayne Johnson's in 7th place. He stopped by the ESPN studios in Bristol this week. I saw him talking about he knows the chances are slim, but great competitor that he is, he's going to fight all the way to the end, try to finish as high in those point standings as he can. Touchdown by Jazz Reynolds has made it a 20-point game. Good kick by Patrick O'Hara, and Lockett takes a knee. And here's a guy who always tries circumstances, Reese Davis.
Always bringing it, Sean, trying to give 110%. An innovative look at the Stanford offense brought to you by AT&T. Here's Stanford against UCLA, and you see the patterns that Andrew Luck's receivers are running. We're circling Kobe Fleener, the tight end, one of the 3 tight ends, or 3 primary tight ends used by Luck. Now he's getting heavy pressure. He's going to throw with some trust and put it in the one place Fleener can catch it. You're going to have to deal with that as USC tonight when Stanford takes on the Trojans.
How about Reese doing it all? Telestration, analysis, studio hosting, tremendous play-by-play man. Klein is buried back at the 10-yard line. They have caught on to the running game now of Colin Klein. His previous 9 rushes had netted a total of 11 yards, and now this one goes for a big loss.
Yeah, and this is Rennell Lewis, and again, it's because Klein's looking downfield. He's going to throw this ball, but there's no place whatsoever. It's just outstanding coverage, which allows Rennell Lewis for another big play.
And credited him with a sack. It was hard to figure whether or not he was trying to pass, but that's the determination. Back to the 10-yard line, 2nd and 20. They are not a throwing team. He throws short to the tight end. Travis Tannehill is taken down by Travis Lewis immediately. K-State is 110th in the country in pass offense and last in the Big 12 at 141 yards per game.
And this is exactly where the Sooners wanted to get this Kansas State offense. They needed points at their back to make them have to throw. And that's where they have a distinct advantage, not only in rushing the passer, but in coverage. Even if they get spread out, they're going to play their zones right here, but they've still been able to generate a pass rush.
3rd and 20. 3 minutes to go, 3rd quarter. Problems.
False start. 75. Offense. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Claude Offner, the veteran right tackle, one of the team captains, senior from Raymore, Missouri. I mean, with the timeouts and the time left, and as quickly as they can move the ball down the field as we've seen running the ball, they have time to do all that. But when you lose big on 1st down, right, you put yourself into this pass mode that Bill Snyder and his team are not comfortable with this year. 3rd and 25. They've backed up almost in their own end zone. Klein keeps. It's a good run, but nowhere near 1st down yardage. Chased out by DeMontre Hurst. They'll mark it at the 18-yard line, 13-yard gain, but another punt. Give Brent Venables and that defensive staff credit. Clearly they made some adjustments to help their team fare better against the run in the 2nd half. 3rd punt of the quarter for Ryan Dorr. And the wind knocks that one down. The sure-handed Broyles the fair catch at the 38-yard. To time constraints, we move ahead to further action. Landry Jones, little swing pass out for Roy Finch. He's tackled at the 50-yard line. It'll be a 1st down on a 12-yard gain. You think the Badgers bounce back tonight on ESPN against Ohio State?
I believe that if you can throw the football, you can have a chance against Wisconsin, which Kirk Cousins proved last week.
But Ohio State can't throw the football.
They're going to have a tough time. But I will say this, Sean. Ohio State's defensive front 7, they're really pretty good. They get after you pretty good, and they're physical.
Whichever country you are, Switzerland or Sweden, do you want to take a stand on that one? Or?
I think that's a game Wisconsin wins. But, you know, to get back to what we were talking about with the offenses, and we've had an opportunity to see a lot of good quarterbacks, but the one that who stands head and shoulders above all of them.
Substitution, number 94, defense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Is Andrew Luck.
No doubt.
Yeah, we saw him a week ago, and he did things. I mean, you watch the tape of him, the more you watch, the more impressive he was.
I saw Todd McShay on ESPN this morning talking about Andrew Luck's going to get the highest grade he's ever given a player. And you can understand why. Hard to find the flaw in his game. Landry Jones throws, and a nice catch. Ryan Broyles. Tackled by Alan Chapman. 13th catch of the day for Broyles. That's 2 shy of his single game best. Of course, Landry Jones is a junior. He said he's going to wait to decide what he's going to do with an eye toward the NFL at the end of the season. But he looks to be a guy who'd be NFL ready if he decided to go.
Yeah, and if I were to give him some advice, I'd tell him to stay in. I really would, because there's some things in his game that he needs to work on. The least of which is pressure right up in his face. Double A gap blitzes give a lot of people problems. That's one of the things he needs to work on.
Tried to come after him with more rushers. His pass incomplete. Juan Miller could not hang on to it. It was interesting to hear Andrew Luck in the interview on Game Day this morning with Steve Young talk about how he sought out Peyton Manning because Peyton Manning had the same decision to make and ultimately went back to school as Andrew Luck did. A Landry Jones situation is also not complicated, but a factor is the fact he's engaged to a women's basketball player at Oklahoma, and she has another year back. So a lot of times where your heart is, that's where you stay.
Yeah, absolutely. And having said all that, Sean, certainly from a skill level, he's capable and he's ready.
Roy Finch rumbles into the end zone. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Just the 13th run from scrimmage for the Sooners today. Good for a 31-yard touchdown run by the sophomore Roy Finch.
So they spread you out, and then they come back inside with a nice little trap block inside, and that was Adam Shedd with a big block, and then it's Finch to the second level in his speed.
Three possessions, 3 touchdowns here in the third quarter for Oklahoma. Michael Honeycutt adds the extra point. Team in the country. They were in the discussion along with LSU and Alabama all season long as to who should be number 1. That loss last week took them out of that conversation. Tyler Lockett runs it back. The kicker O'Hara slowed him down, and the tackle was made by Sam Proctor. To me, it is a team with national championship talent, Matt, but in this day and age of college football, you can't afford the one loss. Once you're at the mercy of the system and what else happens to everybody else.
But you know, Sean, the thing that was perplexing was last week they just were flat. They were flat, and the Texas Tech now that
they played very well, and they're a good team.
And Doggy, that kid, he was on fire. He didn't miss anything.
Well, Texas Tech threw for 452 yards last week at Oklahoma. They had the 3 starters out, all of whom returned this week. There was an hour-and-a-half rain delay. I don't know if that was a factor. If anything, the rain delay should favor the home team. You have the more comfortable facilities to wait in while you're sitting out the thunder and lightning. Sometimes you just show up a little flat. You also have to tip your cap to the other team. I mean, Texas Tech went in there with a couple of very tough losses, but they weren't far away from an undefeated record as they went to Norman.
They had a tough loss to this Kansas State team.
In a very rough third quarter for K-State. They've been outscored 21-0. Just 23-17 at the half. Klein throws. Good catch, far sideline. Tremaine Thompson has it. And it's a first down. Here's Reese Davis after an 11-yard gain.
Sean, Florida and Georgia on this Sports Center right now, presented by Discover Card. It was a 4th and 6 for the Dogs. They've been fighting from behind all day. Aaron Murray to Tavares King. Tied it at 17, but Florida just answered with a field goal. They just took a 20-17 lead late in the third.
All right, Reese, and as we're looking at the highlights from Jacksonville, Klein threw an incomplete pass in the direction of Tremaine Thompson. 2nd and 10 for Kansas State. A minute to go, third quarter. Wildcats at their own 42. Klein had a lot of time but couldn't find anybody. Hit as he threw it over the head of Tremaine Thompson. 3rd and 10. You like Frank Alexander? Watching the film, he is
I do.
a guy with pass rush ability.
Yeah, there's a few guys on this defense that jump out at you. I think Rennell Lewis has had himself a real good game here, but Frank Alexander probably is the best pass rusher on this front. He's been consistent all year long. And then they do have good defensive team speed. In that second level, that group can run. Wirt can run, Lewis can run, and Jefferson can run.
Here comes a blitz and another sack. Jefferson came on a blitz. Alexander nearby. Tom Wirt, the middle linebacker, was blitzing, and it's the 4th sack of the day for the Sooners.
And you're able to do that, Sean, because you can go man-to-man outside. And this time here, they just lock up. There's no place to throw. And then Klein looks down the field, and all you see is coverage, no one open. Jefferson comes down with the sack.
4th punt of the quarter for Ryan Dorr. Huge splits for Kansas State when they punt along that offensive line. Royals, another fair catch. Well, many were wondering how good was K-State. They came in with a 7-0 record, but this was the start of the very tough schedule, about as tough a stretch of schedule as any team in the country will face. 4 games in a row. Oklahoma today, then they're in Stillwater next week. They have A&M here on November 12th, and then at Texas to conclude the regular season. They're going to suffer their first loss of the year here unless there is a dramatic turnaround in the 4th quarter. To give them their credit, I mean, it wasn't like the 7-0 was against a steady stream of cupcakes. Landry Jones is deep, and it is caught by Stills. Bobbled it, but held on to it. And he's all the way to the 13-yard line of K-State on the final play of a third quarter, dominated by Oklahoma. 54-yard gain.
I'll throw it, you go get it. Stills obliges. Big first down.
Welcome back to ESPN's College Football, presented by Cars.com. Oklahoma leading K-State 44-17 as we continue Dr. Pepper's road to the championships. It's a tight game at the half. Oklahoma led 23-17. The Sooners had 242 yards of offense in the third quarter. 191 of it passing yards from Landry Jones, who's now thrown for a school record 481 with a quarter to go. Breaks his own school record of 468. Finch tripped up immediately by Arthur Brown. Both Landry Jones and Sam Bradford had thrown for 468 in a game. Landry last year against K-State. Sam Bradford did it against Kansas and against Oklahoma State rather last year. And Sam Bradford did it against Kansas in 2008. A new mark, 481 and counting for Landry Jones. He'll be the first player ever to throw for 500 in a game at Oklahoma. Jones to the end zone, and it is caught by Trent Rattery, a tight end. Touchdown, Oklahoma. 5th touchdown pass of the game for Landry Jones.
Well, they've been able to do this all day long. Just get things spread out. And then it's just because there's no pressure, it's like 7-on-7. At practice, you just pick the open guy and throw it to him.
Second week in a row, Jones has thrown 5 touchdown passes, threw 5 in the loss to Texas Tech last week. First touchdown catch of the season for the senior Rattery. And the extra point good by Michael Honeycutt. 67 yards in 3 plays. It took only 48 seconds, and the route is on in Manhattan. Michael Honeycutt will kick off this time. Into the wind. Oklahoma up to 567 yards of offense. Tremaine Thompson handled a short kick. And got blasted by Trey Millard at the 36. Here's Reese Davis.
So it's been an inspirational day for Rutgers. Eric LeGrand led the Scarlet Knights out onto the field. They have a 31-21 lead on West Virginia when Geno Smith finds his old buddies. Nice little catch by Stedman Bailey in the end zone. The high school teammate of Geno Smith. 31-28 late in the third.
Big game there in the Big East. Of course, West Virginia, the news of the week in realignment talk, on its way to the Big 12. This conference. Colin Klein running for his life, chased out of bounds with a 2-yard loss. Run out by Tom Wart. Certainly it's made a big difference for that Oklahoma defense today to have Wart and Jamel Fleming back, Casey Walker on that defensive line. None of the threesome played last week.
Yeah, and then I think, Sean, the best thing that happened to this defense was get points at their back right at the half. Right after that, it would just change the defense completely. Because they did not tackle well in the first half whatsoever.
Officially a sack, their 5th. They rush 5. They can smell the blood, and they're out for it. And they take him down again. That'll be another sack. Aaron Colvin and Corey Nelson. They came in averaging just under 4 sacks per game, second in the country, only Texas A&M ahead of them. They might have the national lead all by themselves when this game is over. 3 sacks on the last 3 snaps for Brent Venables' defense. Here they come again, and that's a coverage sack to bust out the cliche. David King got there. Klein had plenty of time to throw it somewhere, but David King took him down. 4 sacks and 4 snaps.
Well, this is where they're good. I mean, they can get after you. And again, most of the time, Sean, getting after you with just 4 people.
There's Ryan Dorr, become the busiest man in Manhattan here in the second half. Happy to finally be punting with the win. Ryan Broyles didn't get very far. Well covered by the Cats. 12.5 to go. Oklahoma on its way to an impressive victory against the 8th-ranked team in the country. Yeah, these are some of the folks responsible for bringing you the sights and sounds. Today's game, members of our crew took part in our annual Halloween bowling event last night at the Kansas State Student Union. We would have showed you a strike if anybody had rolled one. A scary bunch on Halloween and the rest of the 364 days. They tell us Chris Swihart is Brandon Williams-Berry for a loss. Our great operations people, along with Wayne Nelson and Kelly Perry, do a great job leading our technical crew. They say Swihart was the best bowler with like a 46.
There's Tom.
Still dressed as a pumpkin. He's a good golfer. Now, we had a golf tournament.
He'd smoke
He'd
us.
smoke everybody. But Swihart's result was invalidated by the fact he was not in costume. He came to rest as Chris Swihart, and Chris is the only one who considers Chris Swihart a celebrity or somebody you'd dress up after and consider it a costume.
There's your 500 yards.
Maybe that's why he's still in the game. And he's a Heisman Trophy candidate as well. This will certainly help him. A lot of it's just about posting numbers. I'm a little bit surprised, though, that
Yeah, I don't know why
with
he's
this
in there.
lead, that he's still out there. You don't want to run an injury. And also there's that personal relationship that Heather's talked about. Bob Stoops, many years an assistant with Bill Snyder here at K-State. I don't think we're quite yet at the running up the score portion of the telecast, but certainly it's something Stoops wouldn't want to do. The next catch for Broyles will be his 15th, which will match his career high. Hey, Millard, the fullback, touched the ball much more often than any fullback in the Stoops era, and that's why. Wow, what a run. Touchdown. 61 yards.
And Sean, did you see Ryan Broyles at the end of that? He wanted Millard to get in just as much as the running back himself. Just does a nice job on the other side. You're going to see him pick up the block, and he is going to see him eyeballing him. He picks out the fastest one who can get there, and he makes his choice. I guess he didn't do as much as it looked like initially, but he did force him to go around. 60-yard touchdown.
Wow. A 250-pound fullback, sophomore from Columbia, Missouri. His mom Joy's on the faculty. Extra point is good by Honeycutt. 5 possessions in the second half, 5 touchdowns for Oklahoma. 58-17 Sooners. Sean McDonough, Matt Millen, Heather Cox watching just about offensive perfection from Oklahoma here in the second half. 5 possessions, 5 touchdowns, all of them at least 62 yards. And they don't need much time or many plays to get the job done. So Bob Stoops with the magic after a loss. They haven't lost 2 straight in the same season since 2003. That was against Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game, and then LSU, the bowl game. That's very impressive. The next longest such streaks go back to only 2007. He gets his team to bounce back even after an excruciating loss like last week. Tyler Lockett runs back across the 35. Here's Heather.
Sean, I was able to spend some time yesterday with Dr. Kirk Schultz, who's the president of Kansas State, as well as the chair of the Big 12 Expansion Committee. Very timely topics with the addition of West Virginia into the Big 12. I asked him about the concerns with the geography. Certainly, he said it's something the president talked quite a bit about. He was worried about the travel time for student athletes into Morgantown. He said it's not as much of an issue for football teams because they charter, but certainly concerned about Olympic sports. I also talked to him about the continued Big 12 expansion, and he said, I feel very good about a 10-team Big 12. That means the addition of TCU and the departure of Missouri. When I asked him about Missouri, he said, I can't comment. They have to make a statement. We've been waiting for weeks. We just need them to get it done, Sean.
Well, it was interesting, Heather, as Hubert carried back to the line of scrimmage, and that was it. They put out a press release announcing West Virginia coming to the Big 12. The conference did. They said next year we envision playing with 10 teams. They listed 10 and did not include Missouri, even though they're still in the conference.
Yeah,
this whole 3 lineman thing is a headache. Tannehill makes the catch near a first down. It will be a fun trip, Morgantown to Manhattan. Good luck.
Manhattan, New York. Yeah, I agree.
That's just going to be a very difficult travel. And it looks like the Big 12 is stabilized, and I think that's a great thing. I mean, a couple teams have left. They've added TCU. Now they add West Virginia. This is such a great football conference. I mean, the SEC's clearly been the best the last several years, winning the national championship every year. But you can make the argument the Big 12's been right there with them, right behind them in the argument for the next best, certainly at the top of that argument.
Yeah, and you know, Sean, the whole thing really is fear-driven. All conferences, because everybody's afraid to be left out. That's the big deal. And so they're going to have to get it straightened out, because this is just going to continue to be playing musical chairs from conference to conference, which I don't like.
Nope. Loyalty to each other has gone out the window. Klein's pass deflected and falls incomplete. You know, Lou Holtz had a great commentary a couple of weeks ago on the Thursday night, in one of his Dr. Lou segments, about how in the old days conferences were aligned by geography, largely schools that were near each other that had similar missions, similar sizes. A lot of state universities banded together in the same conference. Now there's no rhyme or reason to where any of these people are going except one thing: money.
Yeah.
Where can we go where we're going to get the most money? And some of it, as you say, is stability.
Sure.
They're all panicking, thinking our league is about to disintegrate. Let's go somewhere else that's more stable. But largely it's about money. What a great lesson for people who are supposed to be educating college-age students about what's important going forward. Follow the money and you figured out most of this stupid realignment process.
You know, we knew, I mean, anybody involved in it, you knew that was there regardless. But it's become so blatantly obvious, and the money has gotten so big, Sean. And again, you can't be left out. You can't be at the bottom of the line, or you're just gonna end up. Look, all this stuff costs cash. All the recruiting, the travel, the facilities, all that stuff. And if you're not going to get the payout, you're going to be left behind.
I mean, Thompson couldn't hang on. It'll be 4th down and 9, and K-State will punt. And you're right. Teams look at it as our league, it might crumble. And certainly the Big 12, there are a lot of rumors the last few years it may not stay together. Now it looks like they will. The Big East has been dealing with it. Syracuse and Pittsburgh, my alma mater, Syracuse, a part of it. You can understand, well, the Big East might fall apart. We need to get to a good landing spot before everybody else is in line to go there.
Exactly right.
But in doing that, you've annihilated the programs of all these other schools that have been your partners for 30 years.
And not just on the football scene, across the board.
Every sport.
Right.
How many athletes and coaches and other people in these athletic departments get impacted because you don't want to hang around and hope that you can work together to make your league work. Time constraints. We move ahead to further action. After finishing a disappointing 26th last week in Talladega, Jimmy Johnson now in 7th place in the chase. Just 4 games left. He's running out of time. Really needs a win tomorrow at Martinsville. The chase continues for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. 1 Eastern time. Tight race. On ESPN, Carl Edwards #1, Matt Kenseth 2, Brad Keselowski 3. Drew Allen, the backup quarterback, is in the game now for Oklahoma. Brandon Williams, the ball carrier. Bounced out to the 17. So there's Drew Allen, sophomore from San Antonio. Landry Jones with a school record 505 passing yards today. 35 out of 47 for 505 and 5 touchdowns. He threw 2 interceptions. They have 643 yards of total offense. Still a long way to go to the school record in that category. It's 875. Williams.
You know, Sean, if you watch where Landry Jones, or look where Landry Jones threw the ball today, most of it, the damage was in the middle of the field. He threw outside a couple times, but through the middle of the field, 217 yards of his 500. Wasn't afraid to throw it deep either. He threw a couple down there, but he was well protected. It was like 7-on-7 at times today. Kansas State was not able to generate a rush.
Hard to believe there was a 17-14 K-State lead at one point. Just a 6-point Oklahoma lead at the half. Williams again. Near a first down at the 33-yard line. Now it looks like it'll be a steady dose of the running game for Oklahoma.
And using all of the clock. And, you know, just thinking back to the very first play of offense, that man right there, Dominique Whaley, he will be missed because he's a talented guy.
They have other nice backs, but he's obviously the best back. That's why he was the featured back, their leading rusher. And it's an impressive win, particularly without him. An impressive bounce back. We mentioned at the top of the telecast, Matt, the road to the BCS National Championship game is long and winding, and they're going to need an awful lot of help. But this is a great first step to get back into that conversation. I mean, they dropped only to 9th after that loss to Texas Tech last week. So here is a very impressive win on the road against the number 8 team in the country. That'll get you a lot of points.
Yeah, and LSU and Alabama, they'll cancel each other next week. Oklahoma State they've been putting tons of points up on the board. Oklahoma will have their chance at Oklahoma State at the end of the year.
If Oklahoma State wins out, they're going to play for the national championship, but
Yes.
they have some tough games left. BCS standings were brought to you by Tostitos. Here's Camille Jackson with his first catch of the day, true freshman from Arlington, Texas.
And Sean, that Alabama LSU game, that is going to be a humdinger. Both those teams play as good a defense as you're going to see in all of football. And they're deep in the secondary. They're deep in their front seven. LSU really has two lines they come through, and they just bring one line after another, and so they're always fresh. But I think the difference in this game is going to be Trent Richardson. I think that Alabama offensive line and Trent Richardson is a good physical group. It's going to be fun to watch.
So you shed your status as Sweden, which apparently is a neutral country, and you're going out on the limb on that one with Alabama.
That's not much of a limb. I mean, it's just going to be a great football game. And it's one of those things what college football is all about.
Williams another carry. Blake Bell has now come in at quarterback. He scored a touchdown goal line situation earlier. Under 5 minutes to go. Oklahoma on its way to 7-1, and K-State will be 7-1. Bell carries first down. And what did we learn about Kansas State today? I mean, they were 7-0 coming in, but 5 of the 7 wins were by a touchdown or less. They had more wins by 7 points or less than any other team in the country. But that's to be expected, Matt. Don't you think? The way they play, there's not much margin for error.
No, there really isn't. You can't beat yourself. And for the first half, they were able to generate enough offense. But defensively, they can't rush the passer, and they don't have the athletic skill in the secondary to be able to match up with a team like Oklahoma that has more skill. You're going to take Stills and Broyles, and those are tough guys to handle.
They're doing a nice job winning the close games against teams like Baylor and Missouri, Texas Tech. We said it wasn't like the 7-0 was against a bunch of cupcakes.
Right.
But they were outgained in 4 of their 7 wins, and they'd be badly outgained here today. And then it keeps remaining difficult when you look at what they have left at Oklahoma State next week. They better shore up the pass defense before that one.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
A&M comes here, a talented team having a disappointing year at Texas, and then Iowa State.
This team, whoever plays them, if they get points at their back, it's tough.
Blake Bell back in. He and Allen sharing the duties now. Bell runs for the first down to the 35-yard line.
Because defensively, I mean offensively, they're not going to win a lot of games just by purely throwing the football. This is a running team first.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're down, or when they're on the downside of points, they've got to be able to throw, and that's difficult for them.
I think they have a good team. They've demonstrated that. It's just not a national championship contender team. Now it's 1 loss, so I mean K-State is very much in the conference race, but they have a tough schedule left, and clearly, at the very least, Oklahoma's a more talented team. Oklahoma State's a more talented team.
Right. And
I think Bill Snyder still deserves consideration for National Coach of the Year, at least at this point in the season.
He's done a phenomenal job here. He really has. And they believe what he's selling. What he's selling works. It worked in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, all the way through. And it'll work 50 years from now because it's built off of discipline, and it's built off of you taking responsibility for what you have to do, putting the time in, working hard at it. All those things work.
Fascinating to visit with him in his office yesterday. Such an intelligent man. Brandon Williams, the ball carrier, got taken down by Adam Davis. And it was clear to me the favorite part of our conversation for Bill Snyder was when he started talking about his family. He went through all 5 of his children, what they do, where they are, what they've accomplished. Talked about his 8 grandchildren. He has a great-grandson. And that's when he was fully engaged in the conversation.
Well, you know, with him, it's all about people.
Mm-hmm.
He's very relational, and he views his football team as an extended family. And so he treats them that way. He expects them to react that way, and it works for him.
Pass incomplete. from Drew Allen over the head of Camille Jackson. Well, there's more great college football action to come tonight on ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC. Keep that remote right in your hand. Go back and forth between that great menu. Clemson and Georgia Tech's been a wild series, one of the most competitive in the ACC over the last couple of decades. 12 of the last 16 games rather decided by 5 points or less. Of course, Clemson trying to go to 9-0 for the first time since they went 12-0 back in their national championship season of '81. That game's tonight at 8 Eastern on ABC or ESPN3.
With that Watkins, the freshman, he is really excited. Great speed, big playability. He's just been tearing it up.
Everything going Bob Stoops' way, and that punt took a nice bounce off the foot of Tress Way, being down to the 14-yard line. So we mentioned that loss really put them in a difficult spot with an eye toward the national championship. They can work their way back, but they're going to need to win all of those. And if they do win all of those, they'll be the Big 12 champion, and they'll play in the BCS Bowl. But Bob Stoops was talking months ago about it's time for them to win a national championship again, and the likelihood of that is still slim, even with this result. Samuel Lemur is in. Backup quarterback, the twin brother of their starting linebacker, Emmanuel. Angelo Peace, the backup running back. And again, you have to feel for Dominique Whaley. Walk on, year and a half ago, working in a subway across from their football practice facilities. The walk on, paying his way through college, has emerged as one of the great stories in college football this year, and now it appears this season is over. Here's Pease again. Driven back. Number of substitutes into the ball game now on defense for Oklahoma, including Geno Grissom, who led that defensive surge.
Back to the
the
drawing
first
board.
loss of the year for K-State.
Yep, back to the drawing board, and they know what they have to do. They can't beat themselves. They're going to have to be able to run the ball effectively, and they've got to shore up that defense before they get to that Oklahoma State game next week, because Whedon will be throwing the ball all over the place.
Bob Stoops, as is the way under Stoops at Oklahoma, they just don't have losing streaks. Very impressive performance after the major disappointment of last Saturday night. 690 yards of offense. Longtime friends wish each other well. Landry Jones, a school record 505 yards and 5 touchdowns. Oklahoma scored on its first 5 possessions of the second half and pulled away after trailing in the first half. Here's Heather.
Sean, thanks so much. Coach, congratulations on the win. After the momentum was back and forth in the first half, an entirely different story in the second half. How did you guys crank it up a notch in the second half?
Well, we tackled a little better. I said that at halftime. And then we got out of position a few times in the first half that resulted in, which they will, big plays. We were more sound in the second half. The wind really helped us. We had them backed up into the wind, and the offense kept scoring.
After last week's loss, how much was today about pride for you?
Well, you know what? There's still a bunch of games left, so hopefully our guys aren't satisfied with having some pride in one game. We've got a whole bunch of games coming that we've got to hopefully play the same way. And
your quarterback, Landry Jones, with a school record 505 total yards. What was the key to his success?
Well, he just throws a great ball. But you know what? The offensive line was great protecting all night. Receivers made some great catches and got open. And, in fact, one of the interceptions, the receiver didn't help him very much. So, you know, the other guys around him played more precise.
Coach Stoops, thanks. Congrats on the win.
And not to be lost in all of that, the Kansas State offense shut down by Stoops' defense in the second half. K-State had 32 yards of offense in the second half. And the Sooners had 7 sacks. Final score, Oklahoma 58, Kansas State 17. Coming up next on ESPN. Stay tuned for College Football Scoreboard. Now for Matt Millen, Heather Cox, And our entire crew, led ably by producer Bo Garrett and director Mike Roy, Sean McDonough saying so long from Manhattan, Kansas.